This is Believe in Buckeyes. I'm Bryant, and All-American cornerback Chimdi Chekwa. We're going to the national championship. We done made it to the finals. Our Ohio State takes care of business in the semifinals against who was they playing? No, against the Texas Longhorns, 28-14. We go to Texas, to the Cotton Bowl, close to that. It's not in Dallas, but close to Dallas, right? And take care of business. Chim, how you doing over there, man? I know you fired up.
Yeah, I'm fired up, man. I was my household was shaking last night after Jack Sawyer made the hit. And it's funny, my wife called it out. She's like, Jack Sawyer got to make a play. I'm thinking like, what? He got to make a play. Boom. Knocks the ball out, scoop, score. Where does that rank? That's the question. Like, where does that rank in terms of top plays and big moments in Buckeye history?
I mean, obviously I'm not the oldest of guys, right? But to me, it's number two, right? I mean, the top play to me is Maurice Clarett in the national championship game, getting the ball back, stripping the ball at their interception. Because first off, it's in the national championship game, one. Secondly, that never happens, right? You catch a pick, then you actually take the ball back from a guy. Like we done seen strip fumbles lead to a touchdowns. But man, I can't think of a play bigger, right? And obviously, what makes it more important is that this leading to the national championships, especially if we go on and win the national championship. I mean, that play we're gonna see that play for literally the rest of our lives when it comes talking about Ohio State in the playoffs for sure.
Yeah. You just think about Ohio State in the past, and some of our criticisms of Ohio State, or some of the world's criticisms of Ohio State not being tough enough or whatever. A goal line, it came down to a goal line stand. I think they got the ball, the 2-yard line? First and goal on the one.
yeah, they got to the one on that last pass interference. Yeah, they got to the one.
So first and goal on the one, and they can't punch it in. And Ohio State has been the top goal line defense all year.
Yeah.
So, the coaches have to be thinking, let's let's give them something different. Let's give them a little wrinkle. They try to toss it out, and Lathan Ransom and Caleb Downs all over the pitch, knock them back a few yards. And that sets up the big-time play by Jack Sawyer. I mean, that's winning the game, bro. Like, that's going into Texas and, they have an opportunity to tie the game, and that defense stood tall and said, no. Pass interference, whatever, ball on the one, whatever, we still got the advantage there. That's big-time football. So I'm proud of him, man. This is a group of guys who I've had the pleasure to speak to before, to meet, etc. One of the greatest group of guys on a team that I've been around in my entire life. I'm not just saying it. That's why, when the Michigan loss happened, it hurt me for them, for those seniors that had never beat them. And I'm like, man, they just deserve more. And they're going out and getting it. So I'm happy for them to be able to get this win and punch their ticket to a national championship.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously, like you say, that's kind of a whole nother topic, right? All the things that they've been doing off the field and their faith and things of that nature, the things they did before the season, right? Old Cap is baptizing guys and kind of sticking true to that. So like you said, that adversity that hit them against Michigan, it was huge. But from there, we got stronger. We got better. We understood that, hey, we get another opportunity at this. Obviously, if you lose to Michigan, you usually don't get that opportunity, right? You lose to Michigan, there's no playoffs. Obviously, there is no Big Ten champion. You don't even have that opportunity to compete and do it again. And obviously this year with 12-team playoffs is different. We get to kind of restamp things and get to go back at it. But I think our defense in general, I mean, what can we say about those guys, right? I mean, like, maybe is this the best defense we ever seen? Like, these guys have been outstanding all season. Obviously, another performance when they go out there. I'm not going to say backs against the wall because I think we know how good our defense is, but you have to do it. And they go out there and they do it again, obviously only allowing 14 points to Texas, but kind of really only 7 because they was able to score 7 points themselves, being led by Jack Sawyer and some of those plays that he made on the goal line. We all know about the strip fumble. Like I said, we're going to see that play for the rest of our lives. But the play right before that, he gets pressure, he gets penetration, he pushes it off the lineman back into Ura's lap, which causes an errant throw So basically 2 plays in a row, he goes inside, he wins. The next time he beats the offensive tackle around the edge and obviously makes a huge play from there. It's just not every day you see a team get to the 1 yard line. And, throughout the season, we've been proving time and time again that we're able to essentially win that situation. And in this one, even push them back and then basically turn it into a strength for us by making a fantastic play. So, I mean, it was a game that took 4 quarters. Obviously, we had a lot of penalties, really, that kind of kept Texas in it. But Texas came up with a great game plan on essentially how to, I want to say, keep our offense off balance, obviously keeping Jeremiah Smith in check, and things of that nature. I guess first I want to talk about, now we talk about our defense. They made a lot of plays. Let's talk about Texas defense for a second and exactly what you saw from them that essentially kept us off balance. Jeremiah Smith, 1 catch for only 3 yards. Because most likely what we saw Texas do, we would probably see a mimic of that from Notre Dame. Because obviously the first 2 opponents in the playoff, what they did not work. So what's your thoughts on Texas defense and what they brought to the table?
Yeah, Texas did a good job of having a lot of bodies around and kind of bracketing Jeremiah Smith. But there's a little bit more than that, because it wasn't just the scheme that they ran. It was the way they executed it. Just understanding, we're going to always identify what Jeremiah Smith is. And wherever he is, I'm going to add a little bit of extra attention, right? Pre-snap, they gave Will Howard a ton of looks, so he couldn't truly identify what that safety was going to do. Right? Sometimes the safety was playing a cover 2, high safety over Jeremiah Smith. Sometimes he was sitting in the middle where he's technically doubling Jeremiah Smith, but he's still reading the quarterback's eyes. So if you have anything else coming across, he can help on that too. And that kind of messed with Will, forced him to hesitate a few times. He'd hesitate, he'd identify where he was throwing it, but now it's too late. He got the pass rush in his face. One time he even dropped the ball because he was trying to throw it, and then he stopped himself from throwing the ball. So they did a good job of kind of creating a ton of different looks, keeping a ton of guys on Jeremiah Smith, not allowing anybody to really get explosive plays. And there was still some plays to be made, but they made it tough, right? Will threw a deep pass to Jeremiah Smith. Ball went through his hands, but it would have been a tough catch, and he was getting hit as he was catching the ball. So they just made Ohio State's offense earn everything that they got.
What do you have to say about, I guess, Ohio State taking a chance, being a little bit riskier, and with those pressures, and then in turn getting hit with some plays due to it? Obviously not a ton, only 14 points, but it still came up. And once again, there's 1 game left, so we might see it again.
Yeah, it seems like if you go back throughout all the games, it feels like the offense that moves against Ohio State always feels fluky. You go back to the Penn State game, it was Drew Adler on scramble plays for like 50 yards, right? And in Texas, it was just dumping it to the running back after, I can't find anybody, dump it off to the running back, and they, get 5 or 6 yards a pop. Which one of those things you don't really game plan for. You just kind of figure, we're going to rally and be able to tackle, but you miss a tackle here and there, they make some plays. What I was a little bit surprised by was the touchdowns to the running back. Same play twice, pretty much. Not the exact same play, but the same route from the running back.
Same
because the running back, it's on film that this is what he does. Right? They throw the ball to him out of the backfield. He cheats out wide, and he makes those plays on the edges. I guess the first one, you had a man on him. They had a good route. Sonny Styles gets beat for the touchdown. So you had somebody there. The second one really surprised me because in that same position, around the same place on the field, back in the same exact position, I'm surprised that they didn't communicate. The backs cheated out wide. There's a likelihood for running back pass. So just being able to understand the situation, and this falls on the coaches as well as the players, and recognize, I'm not sure, what exactly on defense, how they wanted to play that, but I think I was a little bit surprised that they didn't adjust based on the first touchdown being that, because Texas really, outside of a couple passes to receivers, really everything went to the back. Everything went to the back, and all their yardage and their ability to move the ball was really mostly running the ball and passes to the passes out of the backfield.
Yeah, and I think right, and obviously it's Texas, right? They're a good team. Like before the season,
Yeah.
we're talking about rosters. Who has the best roster in college football? I think we're biased. We're gonna say Ohio State. They really, truly, probably had the best roster. But number 2 was Texas, and it wasn't really an argument. And I know Georgia has some steam behind them, but a lot of that was just based on it's Georgia. They've been winning lately. We kind of had that respect in their play that they kind of some guys to step up and figure it out. But we knew coming into the year that Texas had a complete roster. They had running back. They had a good offensive line. Obviously, we just talked about the quarterback and Ewers, and then same thing on defense, right? I believe their top corner won the Thorpe Award. And just guys, just overall good athletes that play solid football. So, it would have been really impressive if we went out there 3 games in a row and just kind of blew teams out the water. This game, we had to play 4 quarters, which was, in my opinion, very understandable. But I guess I wanted to kind of ask about the question is that, usually, last couple of times we lose games, right? It was a game we always felt that, we probably had an opportunity to win. But overall, us getting over that hump of having to play 4 quarters, not giving up that one play at the end that kind of pissed us behind the 8 ball, but staying in front of things. What do you have to say about the Ohio State team and their growth and Coach Day and kind of keeping that team, keeping Texas in front of them and keeping the pressure on them, even though momentum swung, back and forth, but never really giving up that play where we're sweating as Buckeye Nation because, we're down on the scoreboard.
Yeah, I think it's a good point because, you go back, Tennessee, they blew them out. The game was over before it started. You go to Oregon, it felt the same way. Oregon started to battle back, and there was like a couple possessions in the middle of the game, second quarter, third quarter, where Ohio State had to respond. Otherwise, this was going to be a game. Yeah. And they needed that, in my opinion, because look, it's great to blow a team out, but players got to feel certain moments and be able to respond. And in this game, Texas having 2 games of film of this team, this Ohio State team that has just been super explosive on offense, obviously was going to have a plan for it, executed the plan, I think, to perfection, and made it a game. And Ohio State was able to battle in a close game. I mean, they ended up winning by 2 touchdowns, but it was a close game. It could have easily been an overtime game, right? I think that bodes well for them preparing for a Notre Dame team who this is how they want to play football. Like they want to make it a rugged game. They want to make it a game about field position, running the ball, special teams, etc. So I think they need that. And it shows you, what Ohio State has become. Because, it used to be in these type of tight games against, teams like, Michigan and others, where we think we're going to pull away, but they stick around. It feels like a lot of times they figured out ways to lose the game, or at least, put themselves in position to lose. Yeah. But now you can see that they know how to deal with this situation and respond. And it's just going to be something that is going to be much needed for this next game because Notre Dame they're going to be a team that's not going to beat themselves. Yeah, right. They're going to be a team that's going to play tough defense, run the ball. And it's going to be, to me, I'm not talking about score, just in terms of the game. It's going to be a tough game at some point. That's just the type of team Notre Dame is.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. And obviously we could kind of go there. Like, obviously we both watched the playoff game. We both watched Notre Dame play Penn State. And be frank, I felt like, just watching it, I test, Penn State was probably the better team. If I'm Penn State at the end of that game, you kind of be like, man, we really let this one get away, right? And especially going into the game, right? You're playing the game. Their quarterback is out for a series or 2, basically due to concussion protocol and getting examined for that. They lose an offensive lineman. Their running back, their star running back, got a knee brace on. Excuse me, and Jeremiah Smith, he's dealing with a knee problem there. And it's just all these things I feel like, was, that should, in my opinion, kind of put the game in Penn State's favor. Before the game, I picked Notre Dame to win, and they were obviously able to do that. So my thought was that. But watching it was like, well, this really is kind of Penn State game to lose, and they essentially figured out a way to lose it. Yeah. I guess obviously we watched the game. It's a back and forth game. The quarterback throws a bad late interception, and Notre Dame goes on to win on a last second field goal. But I guess what's your thoughts on Coach Freeman? Obviously, Marcus Freeman, guy we played with at Ohio State, guy we know pretty well, right? We haven't talked to him much lately, but the guy we know pretty well. But the thoughts on like him having his team in those moments and be able to, I guess, shine and figure out ways to get it done, even when things are, essentially going not their direction. But what that tells you about the coach and his team and how they just kind of bond together and figure out a way to get the job done.
Yeah, I think they got a belief in each other and a confidence that they carry that, I mean, you're not going to get them down. They're going to be locked in. They're going to go out there and execute. They're going to believe that they can make it, they can come back if they're down. They're going to believe that they can win the game. And they're going to play like it. And Coach Freeman has done a great job of getting them prepared. I think in that game against Penn State, and this is, so the way Buckeye fans in general criticize Ryan Day about not winning a big game, not being able to. That's who, to me, James Franklin really is. I don't want to knock him because he's a good football coach.
Right. He got his team to the semifinals.
He got his team to the semifinals. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to knock him to say like he's not a good coach, but going into halftime, Penn State to me had basically dominated the game, but the game was still a very, very close game, right? They weren't able to really capitalize.
7-point game at half, yeah.
Coming out at halftime, they still needed to make the adjustments necessary to go win that football game. Like the game, there's still a lot of game left. They look like the clear better team, but they still need to make the adjustments. And they come out at halftime and they can't stop the run. Quarterback run. Running back got a knee brace on. They can't stop the run. And down the stretch, they just made plays to put the other team in position. Defensive backs falls and gets beat on touchdown. Quarterback throws a pick when he says he's just trying to throw the ball away. Like those types of things to me are things that happen to James Franklin teams. And when I go on the flip side, Marcus Freeman teams don't tend to do that. They don't tend to beat themselves. And that's what I expect from a team like Notre Dame. They're going to go out there, they're going to play tough, they're going to play hard, and they're not going to get the penalties. They're not going to have the silly mistakes that put themselves in position to lose. If you're going to beat Notre Dame in a big game, you got to go beat them.
Yeah, and obviously, so now that's the task, right? Next Monday, January 20th, we're down in Atlanta. We're playing Notre Dame for the national championship. Obviously, it's a game that I feel like we're the favorites. Obviously, I think Vegas has us the favorites. I think it's about a 9-point spread or something of that sort right now, 9.5 towards Ohio State. And obviously, it's a game I feel like we should win, right? But I feel like I said, this past game, we had a lot of penalties. So I feel like that gives us a little something that the coaches could take to the player. Like, look, we got to clean this up. If we clean this up, no one could stop us. And they're really close to that moment where if they don't have the mistakes, they win the turnover margin, that I just don't feel like Notre Dame would have, what it takes to kind of stick up and keep up with us in that national championship game. But we got to do it, right? We got to do it. It's going to take place on the field, not here, in my basement while I'm shooting a podcast.
Right. Notre Dame's going to need something to happen. It's kind of like versus Georgia, they had a kickoff return where they got a really dynamic kick return. They had a kickoff return for a touchdown. They're going to need something. Big time turnover, big time special teams play. That's how they win these type of football games. In Ohio State, they just need to not have the penalties. They need to not beat themselves and execute well, etc. They're the better team. They just got more talent. Notre Dame also has some guys out. They got some of the offensive line.
Yeah, they got the 2 offensive linemen out. Yeah. They got one of the senior captains on the defensive line is out as well. So they got a lot of nicked up guys for sure.
But they're going to play tough, and they're going to be ready to play, and they're not going to be intimidated. They're not going to, they're going to be. It's going to be a tough matchup in terms of a very physical game. But from the talent on the Ohio State side and the way they've been playing and the way the coaches have been able to get the most out of every player. It seems like everybody's making plays. And that's what you want when you have so much talent. So I just don't see Notre Dame, if Ohio State's playing at their best or at least close to it, I don't see Notre Dame being able to get that victory. And I hope it goes that way. So.
Yeah, that's right. And Jeremiah Love, that running back, number 4, Smith already talking, right? Stated that he won Ohio State. You feel that we're the best team. Obviously, last time we played them, it went down to the final play, right? Essentially, the final play before we was able to come out with a victory there. But just like they're a different team from that season, we are too. We got different horses that they're gonna have to really account for. So I think we'll play it on the field, but I like our chances.
What do you think about this? If Ohio State beats Notre Dame, I went back and looked at, and I posted it on Twitter, the final playoff rankings.
Mm-hmm.
The top 8 teams, if Ohio State beats Notre Dame, they would have beaten every team in the top 8 except Georgia, who Notre Dame beat, and they would have beaten themselves a couple times too, in my opinion. But it would have been every team in the top 8 on their road this year to a national champion.
I mean, that's pretty. I mean, that's how you know that's a true national champion. Whoever if Ohio State is able to get that done, obviously played a lot of great opponents, and all of them. We ups and downs. Some guys gave us certain challenges, but we always usually tend to kind of figure out a way to get it done. Obviously, now in this last stretch in the playoffs, we're playing fantastic. But that's really the road now, right? It's a 12-team playoff, so there's no more. The committee gave you the opportunity to get in, to win it. Like, no, there's none of that. Like, there's 12 teams. Like, if you're not in that top 12, so be it. Like, you probably wasn't going to win the national championship anyway.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I think the road is set. The goal has been set, and obviously it's going to take one team to kind of go through the path and get it done for each season. And Ohio State is right now getting themselves an opportunity to do so. Just one more hurdle to get over, and they can check that box and say they got it done.
Yeah, a true national champion. I don't want to hear no more, because people are still pushing narratives of,
the narratives.
The team who got the first
hypotheticals.
The team who got the first round bye is at a disadvantage, and why would they choose that? Like, there's 12 teams in the playoffs. Last year there was 4. There's 12 teams. If you can't get into the top 12, like, you don't deserve to be here. If you can't solidify your top 12 spot, go home and figure it out for next year. If you get a first round bye because you won your conference, you don't have to risk injury in week 1 like Notre Dame, who lost one of their best defensive players against Indiana, and they still win the next game. And then if you feel like it's really an issue, if it's really an issue with the first round bye, like it's just so hard to get prepared for a game with this layoff. Go play a game. Like, go find a team that wants to scrimmage, or go do a jersey scrimmage against each other. Like, get your guys ready to play, man. Like, if you really feel like you need to go out there and have a full game to be ready, go get your team ready. Because once you line up, it's football. Ohio State would have beaten every team in that top 8. If you think that's a better position to be in than to have a first round bye, they have to play all these teams.
That's so big. More power to you, man. Right. Even Ohio State probably didn't want that path. It was the path laid in front of them. That's for sure, man. But that's our show for the week. Obviously, we'll be popping in when we can. Maybe try to get some guests or something like that next year out this week. So please tune in. Follow us on YouTube. Follow us on Spotify. Follow us wherever you listen to your podcast at. We'll be bringing Ohio State news as we gear up for this national championship game against Notre Dame. January 20th, we'll be ready to go. We'll be tuned in. We'll be having our opinions, and hopefully we'll be celebrating here in a week or so about our national champion, Ohio State. But we got to get it done on the field. So we're going to end this as we always do with a nice OH.
Ayo.
Go Bucks. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Go Bucks.